Welcome everyone. So before we move away from the recon phase, there's just one last thing that I want to quickly show that I find really helpful when looking at these IoT devices. Either if you have one picked out that you're going to be targeting, or you are performing a penetration test on it, or honestly, even more importantly, if you are looking for a target that you want to do some security research on, I like to go and look at the vulnerabilities that have already been disclosed and patched for that IoT device, and then see if there's any common themes or things that keep coming up, and that gives us an idea if it's going to be even really possible or realistic for us to find something, or what we can specifically look for. So I just like to use Google for this. Again, Google is your friend, and we will just look up this TP link again. So it's this router, and then I'm going to look up CVE, and we'll get a bunch of results for it. So the very first one is actually one that I like for IoT devices because it makes it really easy to group those exploits for a specific hardware product, which is what we want in IoT. But you can use your favorite CVE repository. The MITRE one's great, or I'm going to scroll down. The CVE details, of course, here's the MITRE one. These are all good as well. I'm just going to take a look at this one here. So what I'll do is I'll just take a quick browse through and I'll kind of look at the high impact ones, and I'll see in the details what was discovered and if we start to see any common themes. So looking at this one here, for example, the vulnerability allows attackers to execute arbitrary code on these affected installations. And then it's saying we can bypass the authentication, and this flaw exists within this ATED underscore TP service, and the issue results from lack of proper validation of a user supplied string before using it to execute a system call. So already we're seeing this lack of proper validation of user strings. If we scroll down a little bit more here, I want to take a look. We got some command injection here. Taking a look at some other ones. Got a buffer overflow on this HTTPD daemon. Again, we see the firmware version. We can use an arbitrary GET request on the page for the system tools of the Wi-Fi network. So this is, again, that web server. We can make a GET request to it and then have that be passed down into this HTTP daemon where there's a buffer overflow. So again, we're seeing if there's buffer overflow, probably not proper input validation. Scroll down in here, we see a stack overflow again, in this function right here. And if we keep scrolling down, here is another one, buffer overflow in that HTTP daemon, again coming up once more with the same GET request to a configuration page that's being hosted on the web server. And if we keep looking here, here's another one, execute arbitrary code through that TCP or TCP port 80, does not properly validate the length of user supplied data. And again, that's led to remote code execution. So if we keep scrolling through these, we're going to keep seeing that theme where we don't have proper input validation to things that we can supply to that web server, and then it's passing in those user inputs through that web server then to underlying services or functions that the router is running. And those are generally wrote in C or C++, and we're able to either get some sort of buffer overflow or we're going to get command injection. And we can see that theme being just going over and over and over again. So when I see this gives me a heads up of, major thing that we should definitely be looking for and helping planning out our attack. Really quickly, I just want to show you two other resources here. So what I'll usually do if I find these CVEs that are interesting is then I'll go and see if there's a blog post or anything about it. One of the really cool things that I love about the cybersecurity community is how open people are with sharing information and passing on how they discovered things and their techniques. And you can usually find blogs from the security researchers who found this that outline exactly how they found these vulnerabilities. So I've got two pulled up here. This one right here, we're going to look at in more depth, but I just want to quickly call it out as part of the recon. All the credit to this Tran Min here who found this and he's wrote up about it. So we just scroll down, we can start to see a whole bunch of descriptions, and you can start seeing he talks about the vulnerability analysis, block diagrams, even code. So really, really good details about how we found this. And then I also found this one here. Again, all this credit to this Gianluca Paciella who found this. And if we scroll down, we can see his assessment. And again, we're seeing code, and he gives us details about, how this function works and how he's able to reverse engineer this. So a lot of really great details about this. We're definitely going to look at these more in depth, but Just wanted to call this out as part of the recon steps because this is something that I usually look at when I'm doing recon, and I would encourage you to do so as well. So that wraps up this recon portion. In the next video, we're just going to do a quick overview of the notes that I have so far, and then we'll move on to hacking. So I'll see you over in the next video.